And today I'm here not as an official, but as a human being, to share my pain, my trauma, to reveal my personal experience, my reflections about the war. And this is the only way how I want to tell you my story. A story of a Crimean Tatar child who was born in exile apart from native Crimea. A story of an adult who had to leave the Crimean Peninsula again because of its occupation in 2014 and now struggles to get it back. A story of finding home, a story of losing home, a story of collective trauma that is in the DNA of every single Crimean Tatar because we've been constantly deprived the right to live in our homeland. And all this suffering for my people started centuries ago, actually when Crimea was for the first time annexed in 1783 by Russian Empire. Back then, 95% of local population were Crimean Tatars. And within a course of 100 years after, 1/3 of people, of indigenous people, had to run away because of repressions. Tens of thousands of those who actively opposed the annexation, they were killed, religious rights taken under control, many Crimean Tatar schools closed, property seized, archives burned. My aristocratic ancestor family, they used to own huge land tracts and property in Western Crimea, and they lost it all because Russian Empress Catherine II, she decided to launch a geopolitical project in Crimea called Tavrida, based on the imperial grandeur. And she started by labeling us barbarians. She started to gradually erase our culture, our heritage, everything that reminded of us Crimean Tatars. But even darker days were ahead of my people. In May 1944, Soviet Union, led by dictator Joseph Stalin, committed a genocide. He ordered a forcible deportation of entire Crimean Tatar nation within just 2 days. While our Crimean Tatar men were fighting in the war, our seniors, children and women were put in the cattle shed wagons and taken to Central Asian countries. My grandmother Nisa, she was 20 years old when 5 o'clock in the morning, 18th of May 1944, Soviet law enforcement broke into a house in the village of Khaymancha. This village no longer exists because of the deportation. And she and her sisters and brothers were given only 15 minutes to get prepared without any explanation what was going on. People were gathered all across Crimea, were gathered at the railway stations. They were put like animals, stuffed in the cattle trains, and taken to Uzbekistan to the deadly journey. And this deadly journey lasted for almost a month. Stalin's real goal was to actually erase all indigenous national identities all across the Soviet Union. His perverted ambition was to shape a single Soviet people, featureless people, united by Russian language, manufactured false history and propaganda. Yet another inhuman and utopian ideology that took lives, resettled and imprisoned millions of people. One of those imprisoned dissident was our leader, Mustafa Dzhemilov. He was 1-year-old boy when the deportation happened. He went through all hardships together with his people, and his biggest dream was to return home. And because of this, he spent 15 years in Soviet prisons and camps,